Thank you for listening to the BJJ Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the BJJ Podcast. I'm Gary Hall. I got my buddies Byron Jabara, Joe Thomas, and we are here today to talk about traveling and training BJJ while you're traveling and on vacation. How are you guys doing today?
Man, I'm doing great. Looking forward to this topic. I like to train on the road, so I'm looking forward to it. Byron, how are you?
I'm doing good. I recently traveled and trained, and I've done that, I don't know, not a ton of times, but I've definitely done that a handful of times in my life, and oftentimes it's very rewarding. Sometimes it's a little bit, what am I doing here? But it's something I recommend at least looking into, so we have a great show as far as kind of building a travel guide for jiu-jitsu. I think we've all done it, and we'll share some of our tips and some of our thoughts. And
Yep. I want to go back to what Joe said. Joe said he loves to train on the road. Joe, isn't that kind of rough on your back and on your skin, or because that could be a little brutal?
Man, in southeast Louisiana, they make the back roads out of crushed oyster shells. Man, you want to talk about some tough guys willing to get down anywhere. Yeah, it's rough, but let's say you value top position.
Well, hey, that's a good way to keep you from pulling guards. So I like your idea, Joe.
yeah, that does sound particularly brutal, but it does help you work on your top game. Hopefully, when we're training on the road, that's not really happening. And we'll dive into this topic in a little bit. I think, Joe, you have a off-the-mat lesson for us this week.
Yeah, I had something happen this week that, as often happens, gets me to thinking about jiu-jitsu. And it got me to thinking about a topic that I'm sure we've discussed on here before, but maybe it's been a while and maybe we should touch back on it every once in a while. But first, let me tell you what happened. I was out in the garage. It was pouring rain outside. And when it does that, I got a big puddle down at the bottom of my driveway. And I'm just shuffling some things around, cleaning up. And my grandson Sebastian's out there, and he's messing around on one of my skateboards. And just before I could tell him to stop, out of the corner of my eye, I see him shove that thing out the garage door. It rolls down the driveway and through the big puddle. And, of course, I go retrieve it and spin the wheels and try and get some of the water out. But the next day, those bearings were pretty well bound up. So you can get some more life out of your bearings if you'll take them apart, clean them, put some oil on them. And so I'm not a rich man. I decided I need to do that. And I explained to my grandson, he's only 3. Actually, today's his birthday. While we're recording this, happy birthday,
Sebastian.
Man, happy birthday, buddy.
Yep. So I explained to him that when you damage something that belongs to somebody else, even if you do it on accident, that you should do everything you could to make it right. And so he should help me clean the skateboard wheels and put some oil on them. And, of course, that wasn't a punishment for him because, you know, he loves tools and he loves skateboarding. But I thought it was a worthwhile life lesson, and it's never too early to start teaching those lessons. And what it got me to thinking about with jiu-jitsu is if you train for any length of time, somebody else is bound to get hurt while they're rolling with you. And sometimes it may be a result of something you do. You know, you throw on a submission, they don't tap in time, you're going a little fast, and they've got an elbow and they're out, or a shoulder tweaked and they're out for a month, or, you know, a ankle during a takedown. So what do you do when this happens? I mean, it can actually be fairly devastating to some people. It sucks when somebody gets hurt when they're rolling with you, and you're wondering, is it your fault? And, you know, it's not actually a great position to be in. And actually, you should approach that the same way, man. You should take every step you can to make things right with them. And if somebody got injured while they're rolling with you and they're out for an extended period of time, when they're starting to think about coming back, reach out to them and say, hey, man, come back. And if you're still not 100%, I'll drill with you. You know, I'll let you work your takedowns and work your top game. So just beware that if you're new to jiu-jitsu, somebody's going to get hurt rolling with you eventually, and it's going to be a weird and uncomfortable situation. But do what you can to make it right. Do what you can to be a good teammate, and they'll heal up, and 6 months down the road, everything's going to be okay.
Man, that's a good one, Joe. And another thing you could do is just to check on the person, a little bit down the road, whether it's the next morning. Like, let's just say Joe and I are rolling, and my knee pops, and I kind of slow down, and we talk about it. Like, oh, I think I'm okay. But, finish training, we go home, and then I don't see Joe again for like another 5 or 6 days. Well, imagine on the second day, he texts me or messaged me or whatever, and is like, how's your knee? Man, that means a lot that he actually is thinking about that, and, he definitely doesn't want to hurt anybody, and I think that just some sort of, is more of a token of, hey, man, I hope you're okay, that sort of a thing, than actually doing anything. Like, I know Joe can't fix my knee if it is wrong, but if he cares, that means a lot, and it makes you feel like, it was truly an accident versus, I see Joe again in 2 weeks, and I've been limping the whole time, and he's like, well, how'd you hurt your knee?
Good point.
Yeah, I like what you said, Joe, too, is if the guy got hurt rolling with you, be available to train with that person when they come back. They probably can't go full blast. They're probably going to have to go really light. And, sometimes it's hard to find that person who will train that way with you. So I thought that was a good idea. Hey, I know your knee's messed up. If you just want to drill or what can you do? I'll be there for you.
On the other side of that coin, the person may not want to train with you for a little while. That might be real. If you're 250 pounds and the person's 100 pounds and it was just an accident, they might shy away from you a little bit, and I would urge you to also respect that. But having the conversation, hey man, I'll be happy to roll slow with you or light with you, really could mean a lot to that person, and actually do that.
What would you guys think about bringing flowers to the guy if you hurt him? Do you think that would help?
Well, it might mean something to you, Gary, but for the rest of my training partners, not so much. I was going to touch on something Byron said, though, about being the bigger guy, and maybe that is part of the cause of the injury. Part of making it right might include a little bit of introspection, and maybe if it's the third person in a short period of time that got hurt rolling with you, maybe you're rolling too hard, maybe your situational awareness needs to improve. I'm going to say that 90% of the time it's just a complete fluke accident, but occasionally it's an eye-opener that maybe you need to make some adjustments to your rolling style.
And I have definitely done that before. Had a guy I was rolling with get hurt, and, I thought about it, and, I was thinking maybe just in this role I was a little too competitive. Do I really have to, keep that position? And, I have, like you said, thought about it afterwards, and change my habits a little bit.
Yeah, that's I think that's really good insight and a strong way to start the show, guys. Good job, Joe, with the story there, and good job teaching a lesson. Like you said, it's not a punishment, but if in life we're going to break things are going to happen. That's an accident, and if he gets used to trying to fix that right away, opposed to cover it up or just go sit in the corner, or he's trying to make things better, and that's a great lesson to teach somebody.
But the best is Joe posted the video of this, and Sebastian, he's the coolest little man you'd ever meet in your life. But I love the part, Joe, when he's like righty tighty. Joe has taught him right. That was my favorite part of the whole video.
Yeah, he's catching on quick, man.
I'm telling you, the guy is 50 times more handy than I am already at 3 years old. You guys have done a great job, Joe, and he's got a good grandpa to look up to.
Appreciate you, Gary.
He's off to a good start, and if you're fairly new in your jiu-jitsu start, a few months or up to a year, you're probably telling yourself, "This is a lot of fun, but man, it's hard sometimes." And I think we all experience that, even, well past the year mark. I experience that a lot of times. Like, man, this is really difficult. But if you're fairly new, I have an audiobook for you. It's called Your First Year of BJJ. I know you're a big fan of audio content. How did I know that? Because you listen to a podcast. And so that's basically what it is. It's kind of like a 2-hour-long podcast 2 hour and 30-minute long podcast where I just walk you through what to expect your first year, how to handle some situations that are going to come up, some things you should be training, some key points and some tips. I really want you to get a good start to that first year because that's going to lay the foundation to a long jiu-jitsu life and really a lifestyle of being fit and enjoying something that you do on the mat. So the book is $11.99. There'll be a link in the show notes. And it should help you out quite a bit. So I'd like to, and if it does, I'd like to hear from you. Send me a message, bjjbrick@gmail.com. Let me know you got the book and you've enjoyed it or you've benefited from it in some way. And if you feel I'm missing something, let me know, and I'll be happy to make some changes and update the book as well. But it's been a pretty solid book that's helped a lot of people get started in jiu-jitsu. Gary, what do we have for the quote of the week, my friend?
This week we have a quote from Elbert Hubbard. Do your work with your whole heart and you will succeed. There is so little competition. And Byron?
Yeah.
That makes me think of the audiobook and this podcast. Byron, I know you're really invested in this. You try to, you help people succeed. Just like what you were talking about your first year BJJ audiobook. Everything you do, you go in 100%. You have your heart in that. And that is why this podcast succeeds. That is why your audiobook succeeds. That is why you succeed as a firefighter. I know you don't just show up for your 24-hour shift, take the next 2 days off, and don't even think about firefighting. I know you try to become a better firefighter. I know you try to become a better husband. Well, Becky doesn't always say that. She thinks you're lacking there. But everything you do, Byron, this is one thing I've always admired about you, is you do put your whole heart in there. And as Elbert Hubbard says, you will succeed. There's so little competition. So that actually made me think about you.
Well, thank you kindly, Gary.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's, on the mats, same thing is probably at your job. Most people, statistically, do an average job. I mean, that's what average is. It's where the bulk of people are. Most people are not putting their heart into anything that they're really doing, or they just have one or two things. And so maybe you're attacking jiu-jitsu with all your heart and you love it, and you're really getting some good gains at a rapid pace. And so that type of thing works. I mean, that's an example of a kid doing a sport. Maybe they're doing basketball or wrestling or jiu-jitsu, and maybe the kid in school isn't that great at school, but they take off on this thing and they're doing really good. That's the example that the kid or the person has applied themselves to something. And so if you do this anywhere in your life, you will immediately start to rise to the top of the people around you, because most people just do the average amount of work, do the average amount of training, do the average amount of anything, because that's the definition of average, is kind of the middle. So it's really not any big secret. If you try harder, if you put your heart into something, you'll quickly succeed, or quickly show some advancement that you wouldn't have otherwise. And I'm a big advocate of that. Anything that's important to you, like your marriage, your job, your jiu-jitsu, or any other hobby, if you put your whole heart into it, man, you're going to do great.
I'll just add that I think one of the keys to success here is to do it over a long period of time. I've seen people on the job before that they know there's some openings coming up and some chances for advancement. And man, they work really hard and they get really good at their job. I mean, they make some progress and then they either get or don't get the advance, and then they're sort of back to their 60-70% effort. I've seen it in the gym before as well. Guys getting ready for a tournament, or they know they're getting ready for that next belt promotion, and they really buckle down. They put out a lot of effort, and you see a ton of growth. And then they slack off a little bit, which I suppose is normal. But I think the more consistent you can be, and the more you can extend the period of time that you're doing this, the better off you are.
Good point, Joe. One thing I was thinking about, we're talking about do the work with your whole heart. You have to be 100% invested in it and really enjoying it. And, I think that goes back to Byron's first year of BJJ, like picking the right school. I don't think you can ever put your whole heart in if you're not at the right school, if you're not training with the right people. I've known people that I've talked to that started hating jiu-jitsu. They tried it out, and maybe this culture of the school didn't fit with them. And you go back to work. Maybe it's a toxic environment, and it's hard to get your whole heart into it. And the point I was going to bring up is if you're trying to put your whole heart into it, you may not be having fun. Maybe it's time for a little break. Maybe it's time to search out new training partners, a new school, something that fits better. And, I look at this, I always said in work, like, I feel like I got skills that I can really help a company. But if my company is not treating me the way I should, I need to go find a new company. Like if I'm working at a company that I'm not happy at, it's going to be hard to put my whole heart in there. And the only thing I'm doing is hurting myself. So I need to find the right environment where my heart is going to be full, where, I am going to have a good time and I will be able to succeed. I have all the tools, all the support, and then everything else is going to be easy after that.
Yeah, that's great stuff, guys. Both of you guys have, Joe, with your, the time value, you need to stick with it. And of course, Gary, you always have great work examples. I've seen you at work, and you do a great job, but you're also having fun, and you find, I guess, innovative ways to either get a message across to some people or to motivate people. And I think that's an undervalued skill in a lot of places.
Like Joe was talking about, it's a time. You just don't quit. And, Byron and we started in 2002, 17 years. And Joe, how many years you got altogether? You're up there too.
Oh, it's kind of funny the way you added up for me. I did some back in 2005 and 6, but then I took a 5-year break, so it's hard to count those 2 years. Then I started again in 2010 or 11, but a pretty good portion of that was like train for a couple weeks and then not for a couple weeks due to work. So I don't know, Gary, 6 or 8 years, somewhere in that neighborhood.
But you're still there.
But I'm still there, man. Still collecting the time, putting in the time.
So if you add up our years of experience, that's over 40.
We're old.
That's a good thing. I mean, we as a podcast, as we're talking about, off the mat lessons and quotes and relating them to jiu-jitsu, we do have 40 years of experience on the mat, and those are. It's not 40 different people. It's not one person with 40 years. It's 3 of us, and we see things differently. I think that makes this a stronger show. Let's take those 40 years of experience and apply them to a travel guide for jiu-jitsu. Let's just kind of go around and just tell maybe a couple of different things that you've done while traveling or on vacation or traveling for work. Have you guys done much of this?
I think we all have. We all love jiu-jitsu, and we've all traveled, and we're on vacation. We want to do what we like. The one thing that I have found is everybody is so welcoming. Everybody loves. It seems like every gym I've been to loves to have a new person in there. And I guess it would be as long as you come with respect and courtesy too. But that's the cool thing about jiu-jitsu. It seems like everybody is so welcoming. Every gym, nobody hides anything. And I remember the very first time, I went to another gym. I was afraid that people were gonna, really try to smash me, bring their A game, and really just try to show me who the alpha is. And I've never really run into that. I've just run into a whole bunch of good people.
Yeah, I wonder what the average is as far as how often people visit a brand new gym. Like they walk in the gym and it's their first time being in that gym. With my work and stuff, I'm sure more than 20 times I've walked into a gym and it's my first time in that gym. Does that sound about average to you guys?
That seems high.
6, 8 years. I thought maybe so too, and I think it's just because of my work. And out of those 20 plus times, I I only had one experience that was a little disappointing. Nobody wanted to roll after class, but they just had a big tournament weekend or something. But literally over 20 times, and it's been a good experience every time.
Joe, I was going to say something like that. You're talking about literally good experience every time. You know, I can tell you, I actually went into this one gym, and it's actually a wrestling gym, and it was just lit up with Division I wrestlers, older wrestlers, really good high school wrestlers, and my wrestling is garbage. And even there, everybody was so nice, and instead of just smashing me, and then they all wanted me to teach stuff, because nobody there really did any jiu-jitsu. So that was kind of a strange one there. That was not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And I guess that's part of the excitement. I've done jiu-jitsu in multiple states, just traveling around and, hey, I'm going to go check out this gym. And then also, like, I've done it a few times outside the country when on my honeymoon, we went to Panama, and we were just kind of walking around downtown. We had a couple of days that weren't so filled with things. And there was a jiu-jitsu gym. I'm like, well, this is crazy. And my wife was like, you should go train. And I didn't bring a gi or anything, but I had some shorts I was running in and a T-shirt, and I called the gym the next day, and they were all for it. And I've done some training in Myanmar and a little bit in Israel and just recently in Iceland. And so those were all. It's a good feeling, like when you are out of your element. You're in a different country. A lot of things are just foreign. You don't understand literally with new foods, you can't read street signs. There's a lot of confusion. But when you get to the gym and it feels like you're home, it's like it's a great feeling of just like, I belong here. Like 10 minutes ago, I was in a place where, like in Myanmar, this country used to be called Burma, as a lot of people know it as that, but nobody spoke English, on the street. It was just, they wouldn't look at you, and smile much. It was just kind of odd, just culturally different. And then I walk into the jiu-jitsu gym, and several people spoke English, and everybody, even the ones that can't, were smiling and that can communicate with me, were smiling, having a good time, and just like good vibes. And it was a lot of fun. It was just like a break in kind of the harshness of not being able to talk to just random people or really get much done as far as communicating. But I don't know. That's one small reward. But another one is getting to train and meet people where you are. I think that's a great way to experience the local culture.
So, Byron, I assume in some of these gyms the class was not taught in English. How did that work out for you?
Worked out. So recently in Iceland, that was just really a month ago, it was taught in Icelandic, but I really think most people there spoke English. Most people on the street knew English. It's a very literate society or a very educated society. They boast 100% literacy, and most people there can speak multiple languages. It's really impressive. But they taught it in Icelandic, and so I watch. And I think when I was in Panama, it wasn't in English either. But you watch and you try to pick up what you can. So maybe you heighten your focus visually a little bit. It's kind of like if you've done jiu-jitsu long enough, you've probably attended a seminar or two by somebody who doesn't speak very proficient English, or maybe doesn't speak English at all, but you can still learn a ton. And so it's kind of jiu-jitsu. A lot of it's visual, and maybe some of the big points you might be missing. But I also got teamed up with somebody who spoke English. So in this Iceland example, he's like, hey, did you get what we were talking about? And I said, yeah or no. What does it mean by what's going on here? And he was very helpful as far as getting me back on track. And so that's just part of a move by a coach. Hey, why don't you team up with this person, our guest, and this person could either speak your language, which was my case, or is good with, being friendly and communicating things in a nonverbal setting. So it's just, in all these approaches, when you're training somewhere, you need to go in with the approach that you are going in. This is the way I approach it anyway. I'm going into a business that wants to satisfy customers. I'm not going into like a Cobra Kai style dojo where they're going to try to break you, and it's not a gang. It's nothing scary. Like, this is an established place that they have a building, they have mats, they probably have, someone's trying to run this in a successful way. Whether they are or not, it's a different thing. But take away some of that fear of walking into some crazy fight club, because that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I just thought that was a point worth making. If you're traveling to a foreign country, if anybody's listening to this and they're traveling to a foreign country, don't let the language barrier get in your way, because the language of jiu-jitsu is the same no matter what verbal language is being spoken. I mean, warm-ups are no problem. You know what a forward roll is, you know what a shrimp is, and you already know all that. So you just go to the class and you follow along. And like Byron said, most of the world where you'll be traveling, there's going to be some English speakers. So.
And I remember Byron was talking about preparing, to go to Burma, or I don't even know what it's called now. I can't pronounce the name, but he was talking because he didn't know the language and he knew he was going to train. So he was trying to prepare himself to go. So what he did is he watched YouTube videos with no sound. And that way, you don't have the language and you just have to pick it up by watching. So I thought that was a pretty good idea.
That's weird, Gary.
See, I'm just trying to help the listeners, in case they do run into that situation.
So overall, it sounds like, Joe, out of the many you've been to, overall, very positive experience. Gary, how about you?
Yeah, definitely positive. No issues ever. It just seems like everybody is very, very welcoming and, very friendly.
Yeah. Same for me. You get in some situations where it's the vibe is a little bit off. Like, that's a thing. I remember one gym I was training at in Florida. I called the guy. He was cool. I show up, and this was years ago, but I don't know if he asked me to show some stuff, and I'm cool with that. That's fun. And so I showed a couple things I like doing, and then he didn't train or didn't roll, which is perfectly fine. That doesn't bother me at all. I could tell he was knowledgeable, but it's not my deal. It's not my club, whatever. But he kept sending, like he kept trying to get me maybe wore out. He kept, hey, roll with this guy, and this guy would try to murder me. Okay, then roll with this guy, and this guy tried to murder me. And it was just kind of an interesting experience as far as maybe he wanted to push his students, and I think that's probably appropriate at the time. I don't remember, but it was just, I don't know. It was kind of odd. Most schools are just, they want to, like in Iceland, I rolled one of the black belts first. And I think that he either saw that I wasn't that great, or hopefully I wasn't a jerk. And I was here to have an enjoyable experience, part of my vacation. And there was some back and forth, a little bit of play as far as technique goes, let him get his grips, oh, that was a good sweep, or, a little bit of conversation while you're rolling. And I was quickly just like, hey, go roll with people, man. Like, they just kind of, but if, I understand the instructor wanting to protect some of their students against somebody that comes in and not wanting, you trust your teammates, but some stranger comes in, you don't want them injuring a white belt or somebody who may not be as experienced, slamming them, or who knows what could happen. So I understand that. So you want to kind of protect people. But once that barrier is broken and you realize someone's here to either have fun or to, train and be a serious person, and not injure people and be a jerk, that usually just falls away pretty quickly. So some positives and negatives as far as training while you travel. I think we've covered a couple of positives. You guys have any negatives?
Well, I don't see any negatives on the map, but I suppose the one thing is, especially if you train in the gi and those are the schools you're looking for, it is a little extra work. It's your gi is bulky. If you're going to be out of town for a week, you're going to have to go to the laundry facility at the hotel and wash it. So it's a little work, but man, if that's the biggest complaint I can come up with, I guess it's not too bad. How about you, Gary?
Well, I was going to say mine might be a little bit different. When I go back home, I've got my wife's family and my family. And on top of my wife's family, all, her three sisters all, come to visit too. and it's just trying to spread my time around. I feel like sometimes I'm on vacation, and when I'm on vacation, I want to have fun. I want to go do jiu-jitsu. I want to go watch a baseball game. I want to go to the lake. But what happens is I'm getting pulled in so many ways, and sometimes just taking, the time out to go jiu-jitsu, I feel like maybe I'm upsetting, part of the family. My wife's good with it. She understands that if I train jiu-jitsu, I'm probably in a better mood. But I just got so many strings pulling at my time, and sometimes I do feel guilty, like, people want to do stuff and I'm not around, or hey, how come he's not around? He should be here or whatever. So that's always a little hard thing for me. And the majority of my vacations are going to see family, and that's kind of what I run into. Is a lot of my vacations aren't just, hey, family, let's go to Colorado where I got no family and we're going to go hiking, and Daddy's going to go do some jiu-jitsu on the off time. So I run into that a little bit, and it's it's really no big deal, but I do feel guilty, staying away from family activities to do something that I want to do.
No, that's legit, Gary. I can relate to that.
Yeah, that's a good example of it is. Your vacation time is a premium as far as what you want to be doing with it. I'm not a person who goes on vacation and lays around and does nothing. So, some people do that. Like, if I go to the beach, I'm out in the water. I'm doing things that, like, I don't lay there, and a lot of people do, and that's perfectly fine. But I want to do the most that I possibly can on vacation. My wife is the same way. Like, she's getting up early and getting ready to go and going to bed late. We I hate to say it, but we run this point in time in our lives, we run our vacations pretty hard because we want to experience as much as we can. We don't know if we'll ever be back, and that's okay. So let's just, while we're at this place, let's do the most that we possibly can, and that sort of thing. And so jiu-jitsu is that is time away from those things. Like, it is jiu-jitsu, but once you're in mount or guard, it's the same as you would have been doing back at home, just different people. So that, yeah, it's definitely not typical as far as, why you're in the place, what you're looking for, as far as, in Iceland, there's a bunch of waterfalls and, volcanoes and just neat things. We don't have that here, but we do have jiu-jitsu, but I wanted to experience it there. And Joe hinted on a big one, like bringing your gi with you. That's a fairly big item. I don't know, my gi is probably bigger than like 5 or 6 T-shirts, or like 2 or 3 pairs of pants. Like, that's a significant item to lug around in your suitcase for a couple hours of training. The first thing I do when I think about training is I'm looking for a no-gi place. That's the key to making this a lot easier. Bring a pair of no-gi shorts and a T-shirt or a rash guard. And you know what? You could also jog in those shorts. It's good to keep exercising while you're out there. You may not be able to train every day, but if you're able to get up and run a couple miles, or swimming shorts, whatever, a pair of shorts is much smaller than an entire gi with your belt.
Yeah, that's correct. I would say, though, that if you are in a position where you travel frequently, my job has me back and forth. It's worth spending a little bit of extra money to have a travel gi. A lot of schools, or not a lot anymore, but there's still some schools out there that are a little weird about the colors, and they like their students all wearing white, or you just can't go wrong with the plain white gi. And then you get a lightweight gi, and that helps out with the lugging a gi back and forth. But yeah, it often makes crosses that line between, I could get away with just a carry on, but now I got to check a bag.
Joe, that's a good point, and it brings up another point about doing a little bit of research. You're talking about some schools, want you to have a white gi or this and that. But, let's say you're going to visit Houston, and you find out, you Google, you find out what's close to you. You find out the gyms. You do a little bit of research. You may ask on forums, which are, you can go into the, let's say you're one of our Patreon listeners, you can, put a message in our private group. Hey, I'm going to train in Houston. Anybody know a good place? Do some research, look stuff up, call the school, send an email to the school, find out, do a little research beforehand, tell them you're looking at coming. They will give you all the information. Do I need to, have a white gi? Is it no gi day? I just think that'll make a little bit easier, for you, to make you feel a little bit more comfortable and make sure you're doing everything properly.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to show up, not in a gi and a ski day, or vice versa, or the wrong thing. I mean, make that easy on yourself. It's going to be, if you're like most people, it's a little bit nerve-wracking to go to a new place and experience something like this, and it becomes easier and easier as you do it. But imagine doing that in a new environment, and you're wearing shorts and a T-shirt, and everybody else has on a pristine, clean white gi. Like, that's going to make you more nervous. You want to make this easy as possible as you try out a new gym. Another negative that I would just say just briefly is you do run a little bit of a chance of getting injured outside of your own control. So, on vacation, you could trip or fall or break something just in real life. I'm training with Gary or Joe or at Fox Fitness. I feel pretty safe. I feel like I know these people, and sure, accidents can happen, but I don't feel like really, if I get hurt in a significant way, it's going to affect my job. And that fear is really not even in my head because I feel safe as far as the people I train with are safe and have my well-being in mind as we're rolling. But when you train at a new place, you might run into the person who could care less about how you're doing tomorrow. And that's pretty rare. I mean, I think Jiu-Jitsu as a community has that under control for the most part, but that is a bit of an issue. You could possibly injure yourself and then have the remaining part of your vacation dealing with an injury. That kind of sucks. I don't know of anybody actually doing that, but it's just kind of a thing. When you're training with people you don't know, I think maybe it's just an unfounded fear or a concern I have is I don't know if this person is more likely to hurt me or not. But I've never had that experience. So it might just be a concern that's really not doesn't have any justification.
No, Byron, I do think a lot of people have that fear. Last thing I want to do is get hurt. When you're in your comfort zone in your own school with your training partners, those guys know you. You know them. The guys maybe to avoid if you're hurt or you tweak something. The people who are going to treat you with respect and courtesy. And there is always that one person, and you don't want to, get tied up with that person on vacation. You do not want to get hurt on vacation. It's you're on vacation, which is supposed to be a time for rest, relaxation, enjoy yourself. So I think that does pop into a lot of people's heads. It pops into my head.
But a big part of you getting hurt is also you. If you get, let's just say I'm a black belt, I go in there and that blue belt throws on a really good arm bar, and man, I don't want to tap to a blue belt's arm bar any more than any other black belt, but I'm going to tap pretty quick. Like, it's not even close to worth it.
Yep, tap. And, it's also, you mentioned this earlier a little bit, I think when you're talking about rolling in Iceland, it's the way you roll too. If you come in and you're trying to establish dominance in this new gym, you probably are going to get everybody's competition game. They're probably going to bring it. These are their friends that you're rolling with. So you need to, it goes both ways. We need to be respectful to that gym and to the training partners there.
Yeah, in that scenario, as soon as you get tapped by a blue belt that's a black belt, I have a decision to make. I could try to smash this person, or I could say, man, that was a cool setup, nice armbar, and then keep training at a normal pace. And that's going to kind of set the tone for the rest of your time on the mats.
I know Byron likes to when he goes out to do gyms, and when he's getting ready to get tapped, and he'll stop it right there. He'll be like, hold on, and he'll explain why the guy did something wrong. You should have done this. You should have, and you would have tapped me quicker. So it's a good way to keep your ego in check that, hey, this guy didn't really tap me. I'm going to walk him through it and tell him everything he did wrong. Do you think that's a good idea, Joe, the way Byron does it?
Yeah, that's not his only technique he uses, though. He likes to set the table every time he goes in with, I just, kind of got a hammy I'm dealing with. So, and then he's got that built-in excuse, and guy's about to smash past his guard, and he's like, oh, there's that hammy. Oh, let's start over.
And then he comes at him like a wounded cougar.
These are all valid strategies to be used. In reality, when you go to a new gym, and if you're a higher ranked belt, people are going to be looking at you like, hey, I wonder how I'm going to roll with this person. And there's an easy way to just not let this bother you, or not that it doesn't matter. So, I walk in, I'm a black belt, and I got a brown belt that is going to really see how close he is to the black belt level, or maybe he's there, or maybe he just annihilates me, whatever. He taps me, whatever. That doesn't matter. And in reality, that the person that did that, and you could think of it from your perspective, anytime you've tapped a belt higher than you, you didn't immediately think that person sucked. You thought, man, I'm doing pretty good. And so that if you do get caught by a lower belt while you're traveling or even on the mats, the people don't think that you suck. They think about themselves as getting, as a positive. Hey, I must be doing something right. I caught this new black belt as he walked in. So just take that pressure off yourself. They're not trying to grade you. They're trying to grade themselves. And if that's even happening, the two black belts I rolled with Iceland, they were very playful, and we just exchanged jiu-jitsu. I didn't feel like they were testing themselves against me at all, maybe because it wasn't even a test. But it was just a fun roll. So both of them, they were old training partners. And sometimes you get that, but sometimes you get somebody trying to test themselves with you, and sometimes they'll catch you. That doesn't mean that they think anything less of you. And in reality, in a few months, they probably won't even remember you. So how do you guys find gyms when you go train?
Google.
Yep, the internet for sure.
Yeah, I mean Google. Ask questions on forums, but Google's my best friend there.
Yeah, asking people is man, that's underappreciated how much that can help. I went to Chicago with my wife a couple weeks ago. She had something up there, and I Googled, and actually that area of Chicago is just. There's a jiu-jitsu school every other block, so there's plenty to choose from. But I just threw a question out on Facebook, and Nick Unander hit me up and said, yeah, go train with this guy. He's came over and did a seminar for me. So we had a mutual friend, and that really made the experience, I think, a little bit better, more enjoyable. So don't forget to reach out.
Yeah, that's a great one, Joe. I think you cut out for a second there. So yeah, obviously you guys saying Google, and Joe, asking a coach, asking somebody that that's well connected in jiu-jitsu. I feel like I could ask Andre Montero, and he basically would have somebody for me in almost every state in the United States. Or there's probably a dozen countries where he's gonna, hey, go to this gym or do this. Man, what a resource! And then, like Joe says, you walk in and they know that somebody, like you have a mutual friend. Man, that makes the world seem smaller. Man, that's a really good feeling that this person also knows my friend and has trained with this person. Like that's a cool feeling to get.
And Byron, I don't even think you just need to ask somebody who's well respected. Ask your buddy who's a
Gary.
Yeah. But I mean, anybody.
Byron just won the internet.
Yeah. I mean, it could just be a brand new white belt, but. Hey, my buddy John trains over there. He's a white belt, and same thing. You walk in, and John's going to have open arms for you, literally open arms as he takes you down. But yeah, it just makes it so much easier when you do go into that place. It's like, hey, this is so and so's friend, and you're just going to fit in quicker.
Yeah, and then of course, the next step is to make some sort of a contact with that gym.
Yeah, I prefer phone calls. I've done the messaging and the emails, but some of the gyms don't monitor their messages and their emails all that closely if it's a smaller gym, small town. So I prefer a phone call. How about you guys?
I've found phone calls don't get answered. Gyms
really?
only open for a small time, and a lot of the smaller gyms don't have anybody working, the front desk. And, I can go back to Byron and I's first gym. I don't even think the place even had a phone. Did it, or did I just not know?
I think it was Johnny's actual phone at his house,
okay.
where he wasn't home a lot either. But
I think more and more the gym's phone is the head coach carries it around with him. So.
Yeah, yep. But I've just found better. I'm a big Facebook. I Google. I find their Facebook page. I don't really check out the website unless I can't find a schedule. And I always do a little research before I send an email. But I've just had good luck with a message on Facebook. That way. But I like what Joe said too. I mean, try calling if they have a number listed. Try sending a message, and like Byron said, contact the gym.
Yeah, I don't know if
you're coming.
I don't know if I've ever gone to a gym while I'm traveling that I haven't contacted first. I might have.
I don't think I have.
But
I don't think I have.
It's just it's a courtesy to that gym owner that heads up. Am I invited? Like, I've never got to know either. But it's just, how weird is it to be a gym owner and have some random purple belt show up and just want to train, and then this is a one-time thing, they're not going to be back. Like, but if you give them a heads up, man, that's a really polite thing to do. It's do
so
that.
So Byron, what kind of questions do you ask? What things do you address on that phone call, or if you're messaging them, Gary? What are the things you want to know before you go?
We could just do this. Pretend you own a gym, Joe. Okay. Hey, my name is Byron. I'll be in town traveling, and I'd like to find a place to train. I see online, looks like you have a really great gym. Would I be able to come in and train with you guys on Tuesday?
Hey, I want to stop real quick.
Okay.
That was great. I see you have a really good gym. I love that. Just the way Byron said that. You're complimenting that person's gym. That person's going to be in a more apt to be in a better mood and just appreciate the compliment you just gave. That was pretty cool. Okay, go ahead.
Yep. So sure, you can come in and train with us on Tuesday.
All right. Is it gi or no gi?
When are you planning on coming?
In the evening.
Okay, at the 6:30 or 8:30 class.
Oh man, whichever one you recommend for a guest, I guess.
Well, 6:30s are fundamentals. It's a gi class. 7:30 is competition class. You're welcome to come if you're up for it. I suggest you come to the 6:30 class first, though, and check that out.
All right, I appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to seeing you. Do I need to bring anything in particular?
It's a $20 drop-in fee.
Okay, sounds good. Man, I'm excited, and I'll see you on, I don't know what we said, Thursday?
Tuesday at 6:30.
They close. I'll see you Saturday, and then it just throws the whole thing off. That's it. Just a nice conversation, and they might forget. They might hang up the phone, and then when they see you, hey, I called a couple days ago, and I was hoping to and talk to you. Man, that rings the bell. Or I feel like sometimes the messages do get dropped. Like you talk to a coach who's not actually there, and you show up, but really making the attempt, getting some contact. You don't come in a day that their schedule is thrown off, because of a tournament or something weird. But do that. Like a phone call is good, an email is okay. I know I've changed gyms because they didn't respond to a message. Like
I've had that too.
Like I'm going to travel in this area. Let's send them a message. This call can't do it. Let's try another gym. Pretty simple.
So Byron, I'm a little more paranoid, I guess, about things going wrong and miscommunication than you, because when I call a gym, I usually say something to the effect of, I'm not sure if your schedule's is updated, but I see you have a 6:30 class on Tuesday night. Is that class open for guests to attend? I'm really paranoid that I'll look on their website and I'll see a schedule and it won't be updated, and I'm going to show up a half hour late or something. So I really try and get all that clarified, and I always ask about a drop-in fee.
Yep. Joe, I like what you just say. You're paranoid about showing up late. And, if the class is at 8, don't show up at 8. Make sure you're there early. Be respectful to the school, to the students.
Yeah, and the drop-in fee is nice to mention that up front. Bring money.
Yeah.
Like when in Iceland, they didn't charge me anything, but I did buy a T-shirt. Yeah. It's okay to spend money. Same thing. I got a T-shirt from the Panama, just the place I went to. He didn't charge me any money when I got there, but I was like, I want to get something. What do you have? He goes, I have T-shirts. That's about it. I go, I'll take a T-shirt, man. And that's a cool souvenir. It's a much better souvenir than some, I don't know what people get for souvenirs, but a T-shirt,
shell necklace.
Yes, that would be a souvenir I probably wouldn't appreciate nearly as much. And then while you're there, I would say if you are there, depending on the size of the gym, it might be run like a professional, facility, or it might be kind of more of a club feel. But if there's a drop-in fee, or even if there's not, offer to pay. Bring that up again. Hey, is there a drop-in fee? They said no on the phone. Be ready to pay it. Like offer again, and pay that at the beginning versus the end. You don't want the person to be kind of a little bit grumpy with you as you train the entire time. You want, oh yeah, this guy's good. He already paid. I don't know. Pay before you receive the services. If I think that's a courtesy as well. But follow your normal social norms in jiu-jitsu, and be aware that some at your local gym might be a little bit more relaxed.
Byron, I love the point about buying a T-shirt if they don't charge you a drop-in fee. Send them give them a little. But hey, one thing you could do also is if you have some shirts from your gym, maybe bring a shirt from your gym and give it to the instructor. Yeah. I always think that's kind of cool. I've never done it before, but, just thinking about that, I was like, hey, I like that idea. You know what I mean? Because everybody likes to have jiu-jitsu shirts. Like, you were just talking about you got one from Iceland or, the Iceland gym you trained at. And I bet they would love to have a Fox Fitness shirt.
I didn't even think about that, Joe or Gary. Yeah. I'm so inconsiderate.
Yeah, you are.
So another thing you could do, and I try and do this, is give them a shout out on social media. Give them a good review, and put a post out and say, hey, to all my friends, if you're ever in the Chicago area, stop by and train here. It's a great school. Give them a shout out; they'll appreciate it.
Yeah, that means a lot. Like Joe said, give them a shout out on social media. Give them a review. You remember when we were first starting our podcast, we were always telling people to give us reviews. It gets people to your gym. It gets people to your podcast. And, that's very important.
Yeah. As far as while you're there, obviously, typical, like be clean, be friendly, do your best, do good, but you don't need to try to smash everybody. Like if you're rolling as a brown belt, if you're rolling with a blue belt, roll at a level that is good for both of you guys. Like you don't need to annihilate this blue belt. You want to have a good time. So, what other kind of norms do we need to kind of be aware of while we're training as a guest? Yeah, think of that. You're a guest here. Like that's a way to think of it as well.
You're a guest. You're coming into somebody's house, somebody's place of business, and that has family, that has people that are training there. Like you said, don't be a jerk, but remember that they have rules that they follow. Don't be the know-it-all. If you come in as a black belt and there's a purple belt teaching, you don't, and that purple belt doesn't want you to teach. Don't be correcting him. Don't be, and I don't care if you're a white belt. Don't be that white belt. Don't, talk over the instructor. Don't, do any of that stuff. It's just like you're in a regular class. You're in school. You don't talk over your teacher. You don't. So, just be common courtesy. Just use common courtesy when you're there.
Of course, all this is different than the professional grappler who's going out to Southern California or like some big place to train and pick up 2 weeks of solid training and have some groundbreaking experiences. You go to Brazil and you really want to you're there to train versus there to vacation, enjoy Brazil, and go train 1 or 2 days. So you've set up places to go train, maybe part of your team network or something like that. That's different. you're gonna go roll hard. You're gonna do teammates and that sort of thing. But we're kind of approaching this from a vacationer's perspective, or a business person who is able to sneak away and get a little bit of time on the mat. So we see that sometimes in Wichita because of the podcast. People will come in for business for a week or so, and they'll get a couple nights to train. And man, what a great way to break up your business week from work, hotel. You throw jiu-jitsu in there too, and it's going to really change things up for you. So if you've never done this, definitely put it on the list of things that you should try as a grappler. And the easiest way, like what Joe was talking about, is if you could do a no-gi class. But it really changes your tone of your experience, whether you're traveling for business or traveling for leisure. It's a different feel, and if this is a hobby that you're really into, travel and train, man, it's great. So I think we all get the stamp of endorsement for traveling and training if it all fits in your schedule.
Absolutely. Hey, and you know what? If you head out of town, bring your gi, and you're primed up to do some jiu-jitsu, and you can't find any place to do jiu-jitsu, maybe you can find some place to play soccer instead. I mean, a workout's a workout, right, guys?
Well, I don't know. I probably wouldn't be very... my soccer would probably just annoy everybody else on the field.
Yeah, but Byron, we do have an article that I'd like to bring in here from beastmode.com. You talk about how your soccer's terrible, but we've got 5 ways to become a better soccer player.
Whoa. Hey, guys, this is a jiu-jitsu podcast. What's going on here?
If you want to become a better soccer player, it's probably going to happen for every sport. 5 ways to become a better soccer player. We could change it to become a better jiu-jitsu player. We could change it to become a better football player. So, it's a sport. So ways to get better at sports, it's universal. It's going to carry over to whatever activity we're doing. And, like just on this article, Beast Mode Soccer, number 1, improve your SAQ. And I know right now Byron's saying, Gary, what's SAQ?
Gary, what's SAQ?
Speed, agility, and quickness. And you tell me being faster, being more agile, being quick isn't going to help you on the jiu-jitsu mat. Tell me, Byron.
I cannot say those words.
So there you go. I mean, let's just go back to what we were just talking about. Trying to become you're training. You want to train while on vacation. And somebody just said, what if there's no school near you? Hey, let's go out to the beach and let's do some agility drills. Let's work on my quickness. Let's work on my speed. So no matter what you're working on, it's something you can do everywhere. You don't need a school, and it's going to help you. I don't care if it's soccer, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, badminton, pickleball. It's going to help you in all these sports.
Absolutely. So we never go in order on this. I'm going to skip down to number 5. Watch soccer. So if you want to get good at soccer, watch people that are better than you. And I notice how it doesn't talk about watching instructionals and that kind of thing. It just talks about watching actual soccer games. They call them games, matches. Not sure what they call them, but that definitely has a correlation to jiu-jitsu. We spend a lot of time watching tutorials, which is of course valuable, but there's also just value in watching people do jiu-jitsu and watching purposefully, looking for what they're doing and looking for some of the fine details. So definitely that carries over to jiu-jitsu.
A tip that I found that I don't know if we could bring over to jiu-jitsu in a meaningful way, but I think is just really neat as far as for soccer and for many other sports, is they say, tip number 4, play FIFA, which I think is some sort of a game. It's looks like
it's a video game.
Okay. And the reason why they say this is that it helps you understand the role of each person on the team. You're managing it. You're playing, I guess. I didn't even know what this was, but you're kind of dealing with the team dynamics of a soccer team. And so, when you are the defender and you don't move into the right position, you now know why it'll help you learn why that's important to be in this place versus that place. And you get to see it maybe more of a coach's perspective of soccer. So it would be similar, I guess, would be coach a little jiu-jitsu. So if you're whatever belt rank you are, if you sit aside a little bit and you're able to help somebody who's a little bit less skilled than you and coach them, or maybe, hey, try this sweep or something like that, you'll see it from a different point of view, and that might help expand your knowledge of jiu-jitsu. So, yeah, I think it's a fun idea to take some, we have articles almost every week, in there 9 times out of 10, if not, 19 out of 20, they're jiu-jitsu articles. And it's a good way to just promote, other jiu-jitsu websites and that sort of thing. But, man, we could bring in stuff from other sports and just kind of translate to jiu-jitsu. That's a really big opportunity to learn different concepts that, there's way more soccer content in the world than jiu-jitsu content. It's the biggest sport in the world. And, people have studied it and done that sort of thing. So I think that's a good idea. Occasionally bring in different stuff from different sports worlds.
What's getting me, though, is the one you just talked about, play FIFA and video game. We have UFC video games. How come we don't have, like, a jiu-jitsu video game, where you could pick Buchecha, you could pick Lovato, Gordon Ryan, Gary Tonin. You could be those guys and do the moves.
Gary, I can answer this, and it's not what you would think.
I would play that game. I don't play video games, but I would get that one, and I would be Gordon Ryan every time I play.
So here's what you would think that the answer would be, is that it wouldn't be fun or it's too hard to figure out. Here's the reality. We would rather do jiu-jitsu than play a jiu-jitsu game. And the people playing MMA games are not doing MMA. I bet you that's the reality of it. Is let's go train, man. I don't want to spend an hour and a half playing a video game. I'd rather go train or do something.
Yeah, but I really think I could get my black belt faster on video games.
Got to level up somehow, Gary. I'll put a link to the article. Yeah,
somebody does need to make that. I'm telling you, I think that would sell.
Okay, well, I'm glad Gary is pumped about this video game, and it's going to happen. Let us know if you're out there listening and making a game.
That sounds like one. That sounds like one of Gary's audiobooks.
Choose your own adventure jiu-jitsu. Do you go for the armbar but have poor grips, or try to get a sweep?
Press cap lock A, down space, that's the armbar.
That's how you go broke trying to make jiu-jitsu content. But I'll put a link to the article in the show notes, and you can check it out, and maybe you could pull some other lessons onto the mat from the soccer world. I want to thank our 3 newest Patreon supporters. I mentioned them last week, Bogdan, Sam, and Kiki. Thank you guys for your support on Patreon. What they have done is listen to the podcast, and they're like, man, I want to support this show. And you might be thinking the same thing. I enjoy the podcast. I want it to become even better and more stable and be here for years to come. And you can go to the link in the show notes. It'll take you to the Patreon website, and every episode you can pitch in $1 or $2 or $3, and the money goes to help do that. Exactly, support the show. As a token of our appreciation, I'll mail you out a little BJJBrick gift pack. It has a couple of BJJBrick patches in it and a sticker, and you are also invited to join our private Facebook group. And the private Facebook group this week has decided the topic of traveling and jiu-jitsu. So it came down to 2 votes. A couple of different Patreon voters the other way, we would have talked about something completely different this week. But our Patreon listeners have selected this topic, and we're happy to cover that one. So it's kind of a fun way to pick the episode topic of the month, or at the end of the month, was have our Patreon supporters do it. So not all Patreon supporters are in the private group. If you're not on Facebook, that's cool. If you want to be in there and you're a Patreon supporter, we have to be connected through social media before I can send you the invite. Send me a friend request or a comment, or send me a message on Facebook. My name is Byron Jabara, and Byron, Jabara. I'll pop right up on Facebook. There's only one, and I'll get you added to our private Facebook group, and you could interact. We do a lot of trash talking on Gary as well.
It's mostly started from Gerald.
Yeah, we love Gerald out there. He's his own content producer. I really appreciate him. He's fun. So had a great week talking about this traveling. As listening to this, I don't remember the date, but this later. But I'm going to ADCC I'm going to attempt my best to cover it as a member of the media. I'll bare minimum be there as a spectator and a fan because this is something I've wanted to see for basically my entire jiu-jitsu career. It's back in the U.S. now, and I'm just really excited to do that. But I'm hoping to grab some interviews for you guys and be able to do those and to put them on our YouTube channel and probably put a few of them on the podcast as well if they're if I'm able to do that. I don't know. I'm going to try my best to bring as much as I can out of this experience at ADCC. Really excited to do that. Obviously as it's airing, it's probably already happened, but we're getting ready to leave here later this week from when we're recording this. So follow us on Facebook. I'll be posting some stuff, and on YouTube there'll be some videos as well, I hope. I don't know what the rules are here. I tried to get some contacts established, but it really kind of fell flat as far as getting some sort of credentials or any of that stuff. So we'll see what I can pull off.
Well, Byron, I know a guy who can get you credentials.
Oh, man. I appreciate that, Gary.
Okay.
I feel well connected just by knowing you.
Awesome. Thank you.
So not sure about what next week will be. It might be something ADC related, ADCC related, or it might be an interview that we have ready to roll after that. So anyway, until then, stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower.
Train hard, train smart, train when you're traveling, and get better, guys. We'll see you on the mats.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.